Yo, yo, world, um, YouTubers, TikTokers, believers, sinners, and stimulus check receivers. um, Let me just start by saying this is my first time. I have never done this before, and hopefully, if it goes the way that I intend for it to go, then it will be what is needed to move forward. Now, I know you're wondering, what is the it she talks about? So I'm just going to touch base on a couple of details about what's going on and my reason for doing this. And hopefully, we can clearly define what the it is for me and hopefully for you. Uh, Today, I decided to jump. Not in the literal sense, um, but jump in a very necessary direction to move forward in my life. And I preface this with a very interesting YouTube video that was given to me by a dear friend of mine who was faced with some of the same similar types of challenges that I'm experiencing currently in career, in single parenthood, and the transition of moving towards that middle age in life where society perpetuates this idea that you got to have this together, you got to have that together, you got to have that together, you got to have your house, your kids, your career, your regular 9 to 5, and you have to be all suit and tie and button up in order to enjoy and or achieve the desired result in life. Let me tell you something, beloved. It don't happen that way. Well, it don't happen that way for people who are purposely made and driven to live radically outside of what the status quo is. People such as myself and you, of course, if you are watching. So, in short, I am a spirit of all things creative, whether it be event coordination, photography, theater, dance, graphic design, culinary arts. I have this amazing gift to take what I am feeling on the inside, take the vivid colors of experience and emotion on the inside to create something whole, to create something unique, to create something beautiful. I'm just very fortunate in the idea where it can be expressed in a myriad of ways. Um, so, for the past 6 years, I find myself trying to be culturally accepted, corporately accepted, organizationally accepted, um, in what most would consider, blue collar America, middle class America. I'm not sure what the phrase is. Who cares? Um, because, when you have a legacy or a child, if you will, to take care of, you as a parent have to do the responsible thing and get a regular job and get a 9 to 5 and make sure it has benefits and pay your bills, and everything has to be structured like this, like this, like this, because there's no other way to get it done. Nega fucking tiv. I have dedicated the better youth of my 30s, yes mamming, yes sirring, only being spoken to when I needed to be spoken to, only be saying things or having an opinion, only when being asked, and even then not to even be heard, with no value to my real assets or opinion, none of which the things that make me are being utilized in a way where I can be internally satisfied and happy with the way that my life is supposed to look like. I guess that's the best way I can put it. Outside of being completely and utterly unhappy and tormented with the self versus self, I felt like I was being forced to project or present this person that the world was supposed to see in order to fit inside of their created universe, their box, and completely ignoring the fact that in my wonderfully and divine made self, I was never supposed to be in a box to begin with. Walk past the box? Maybe. Peek in the box? Possibly. But under no circumstances was a person like me ever supposed to get in it. And against my better judgment of my inner self, and with the projected fears of motherhood in raising a single daughter, I felt like I had no other choice but to get in the box. And let me tell you something, y'all. The box is wasted. The box is, how do I say it? The box is clearly undefined, defined for those who choose to define only what they want to define themselves with, if it is applicable to what is defined. That's the best way that I can put it. In short, white man's world, white man's rule. To a certain degree, we have to accept you because legally, there's issues if we don't. But over here, in this box, you're required to behave a certain way, sit a certain way, look a certain way, speak a certain way, and then you'll be successful. And even in doing all of these things, and you are 100% fantastic at it, it is no guarantee that any of it will be respected, that any of it will elevate you, that any of it will provide the greater good for yourself and even moving forward or advancement, because it's their rules. So, again, for all of my creators and believers and sinners and naysayers and stimulus check receivers, I tell you this version of a really quick story of what's really going on to pick your brain, to allow you a space and a moment to just be and sit down and listen to what your body is telling you, what your spirit is telling you, what your mind is telling you about self. What's your purpose? What are you specifically designed for? What are you here for? What will be your thumbprint on the earth before you leave here that is uniquely attached and identified to you, that is achieved in such a way that is your own for the world to take advantage of, for the greater good, in making us coexist in a better place? Because there are things that are needed. There are things that are constantly needed, whether you add or subtract something. There are things that are constantly evolving, things that are constantly changing, things that are constantly moving. And there's so many people in this world for there to be such limited answers, and being told that there are just limited roads that you can travel down to achieve success. So today I jumped. Wasn't feeling the vibe after 6.5 years of my state job and service, and making sure that everybody else was taken care of. And at night, I'm walking around in my mental trying to figure out how to best take care of myself so I can wake up the next day and do, what their version is of life. And today, couldn't take it anymore. My body was physically rejecting having to continue to do this. From my mind, from my spirit, from my nerves. It just, so many times I walked towards the building to go in and walk back, because it felt like if I took one more step towards that building in that direction, then I would never get out. It was in that moment where I had to really focus and realize and say that if you don't interrupt the pattern, like now, like right now, you will ever be stuck in the revolving door on your own accord. Where does it stop? Where do you draw a boundary with yourself in allowing these things to continue to happen to you? And yes, I understand we need jobs, especially amid COVID and everything that's going on. Everything in the world is telling you that we are in such economic crisis. We're in such destitution because of the things that we see. But again, I say, even faced with such racial adversity, healthcare adversities, medical crisis, global pandemics, it's nothing that the world hasn't experienced before. AD, BC, biblically, somehow the chosen seem to get through it. Somehow there seemed to be some sort of end to incite evolution, some sort of answer to move forward, because here we are, right? Bonafide 80s baby. Here we are. We didn't come from the Byzantine period. We came from generations and generations and generations and generations of survival to have one foot in the grave and then eventually meet your demise, to say you didn't achieve not one dream. You didn't take not one bet or one risk on yourself. I don't want to have those regrets. And do you, however you flow. If life is great, then mazel tov, your algorithm is working, your pattern is working. I myself have to interrupt my pattern because I just don't want life. I want to feel free in my life. I want to feel and see beauty. I want to create beauty. I want to experience life in all of its advantages in full. I don't want to sit down and listen to didactic lectures and people drone on about what it is to be great underneath their organization. I want to know what it's like to be great under my being. I want the challenge of rising to the occasion of self, to really see what I'm made of, because there are so many things that are dying to get out. So I've talked a lot. I'm going to leave you with this. In a world of so many knowns, when I say knowns, KNOWNS, if it's not a word, I just made it one, where because of trial and error, if you do this, then this is the result. Or if you do that, this is the consequence. Spend some time in being comfortable with working with the unknowns, because that allows greatness to happen. That allows for other things to happen that doesn't always result in fear or negative consequence or penalty. So I say that to encourage you that if you're experiencing anything like I'm experiencing, or an internal struggle, or there's a phase of self versus self battle, interrupt the pattern a little bit. Switch up the tempo. In my Chris Brown voice, it's a bad Chris Brown. Jump. Till next time.